soul path is the iterations of our soul through the centuries, where we've been, what we've learned, and what we've come back to do. It's how we navigate our soul's physical journey. But imagine, you met someone you remembered from your soul's past, and they remembered you as well. I'm Jim Masters, CUTV News. This very thing happened to our guest, Loretta Herrington. Loretta is the author of Piece of Soul Through the Heart, A Soul's Journey, which recounts the story of this remarkable experience and the friendship that was created as a result. A heart and soul-felt story capturing nuance, humor, and joy, guided by the light and promise of God, ritual, nation, family, and proud heritage that links generations worldwide to the common human experience of hope in the shadow of adversity. Loretta says meeting someone for the very first time and knowing that you've known them before was a complete shock. She hadn't experienced something like this before. Her existing belief system was completely rocked. It's a truly amazing and inspiring story, and I'm honored and pleased to welcome author Loretta Herrington to the CUTV News studio today to share with us how this profound experience has changed her life and how to learn as well what it was like putting it all down on paper in her new book, Piece of Soul Through the Heart, A Soul's Journey. Thank you much for joining us. We really appreciate it, Loretta.
Thank you, Jim.
It was terrific to have you here, and I'm really fascinated by this story. What was the inspiration for the book?
The inspiration for the book was based on my experience of taking care of my elderly father, who was infirmed for several weeks before he passed away. And I traveled to his home in Pennsylvania from Virginia to take care of him during the week, and my siblings took care of Dad on the weekends. We got to the point where we needed additional help. So we reached out to a number of agencies, and then we made a decision to go with a small healthcare agency. They were called the Polish Ladies, and I like that because my mother's side was from Polish.
Poland, yeah.
So they sent us a young man by the name of Zora from the country of Georgia, and it was my job to interview the individual that was sent to us. And so Zura showed up one day, just not one day, but he showed up on the day he was supposed to be there to get through the interview. And so we met Zora, I met Zora, introduced him to my dad, and I saw that the two of them were immediately in sync. Mm-hmm. So we chatted, and the next several weeks we took care of Dad together. Zora was with me when Dad passed away, and witnessing a soul passing over with someone is a lifelong bond. Mm-hmm. So I went back and I said, there's something about this young man. When I saw him walking up the steps to my dad's house, I had the chills. I had a cold feeling going through my body, and I tried to place him. And after I spoke with him, I knew there wasn't a recent connection. So the reason why I wrote the book is I wanted others to understand two things: what it takes to take care of a parent or a sibling who's dying, mm-hmm. and bringing someone into a family structure that you don't know, and mm-hmm. you have to trust this person, and you have to take the risk with that person. And I wanted others to understand that through the kindness and generosity of others, a new path would be opened up for me. And that's, in fact, what happened 8 years ago.
That's incredible. Now, you wrote the book a while ago, and it took a while for it to be published and out there, but there's a specific reason as to why, right? Tell us about that.
The reason why I hesitated to promote the book and my story is I didn't want someone that didn't have an appreciation for my story and the sensitivity around the story. And it's just not another story. It's just not another book. And some of the concepts that I introduce in the book, I didn't want it to be taken lightly. And so I turned a lot of calls down because they did not embrace the meaning of the book, mm-hmm. and the story behind the book, and until we connected. And I said, I like this I like this. I think we can work this through and put my book in the right light.
So tell us about Zura. Tell us more about this person in your life.
Well, Zora is an interesting young man from the country of Georgia, former Soviet Union country. And he was a poet. He studied traditional Georgian dancing, high energy soul. His English wasn't very good when we met, but it's improved greatly. Full of life and enthusiasm. Coming to this country and knowing the opportunities are endless.
Right.
And he would say, sometimes I think it's too much here. I have too many choices. But I saw...
It could be overwhelming.
It was
Absolutely,
overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, there was such a profound sense of loneliness with Zora. He was away from his family for a number of years, going through the process here, and feeling like no one cared for him. And he said to me, I am no longer alone now. I have you. And I know that I'm safe now. And so that's a little bit about him. Of course, lots have happened since the time he bound up the steps to my father's house and was with me when Dad passed. We, meaning my whole family, including my husband Rick, we embraced Zora. We just loved him. But it was because of my connection with Zora that I went to my family and I said, Zora's special to me. He's going to stay engaged with us. They said, then he's coming to Claire's baptism in next week. I said, he'll be there. And he's been with us ever since.
Was it sort of like originally a deja vu moment for you? Or talk about how it was shocking and it must have really rocked your world when this happened. Tell us about that.
It's one of those aha moments, yes, deja vu. And I've had periods of deja vu throughout my life where I know I've been there, I know I had this sensation, I know I've met this person, and then I grapple with where did this happen, how did this happen, why did this happen? So it truly rocked my world. It scared me because I hadn't had this kind of reaction before. It was combustible. And
was it mutual too?
He knew he found a place with us, but he wasn't as open to the metaphysical side of this. It took him some time to get used to that. But he also knew when I interviewed him for the book that he would never walk away from me or my family.
Right.
So it did rock my world, and I was looking for validation. Where can I go? What can I... Surely others have gone through this. And so I wrote the book saying somebody's going to read this book and say, I've been there, this has happened to me, and I've since had that validation from others.
How did you come up with the title of the book?
Zora and I were brainstorming, and the photo that's the cover of the book is his, and he's a poet, and very romantic, love, and I said, let's talk about what has happened here. And this book was written 3 years after we met. And I said, I have to bring in the concept of soul and heart. And he said, piece of soul through the heart. And I said, that's how it describes what we've experienced. And it is part of a soul's journey. And the journey continues, and he's doing what he's doing, and we're working all these things through together. So that's how I came up with it. Fit.
Yeah, perfect.
It just
Absolutely
fit.
Perfect.
And the title came after I wrote the book.
You know, sometimes that happens. Absolutely, yeah, because if you create the title first, you get locked into that title, and then you try to write the book around the title. But it's great to write the book and let it flow during that writing process, and then have the title after. What was that writing process like for you to actually put all of this down on paper and see it on paper? And for you, was it harder to really start writing the book, or was it harder to complete it and end it and know when to end it?
Starting to write the book was the easiest part. I would get up early in the morning and write and write and write until way into the evening hours, take a break, had something to eat. I had to do this because I had to work through it, and it was my way of working through it. Interviewing Zora was part of it, and we were getting through, I was about 3/4 of the way through the book. And I said, how's this going to end? Where do I end it? What do I say at this point? Keep in mind, Jim, that my family was going to read this book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's a lot of thought and care that went into every word, every paragraph, every page.
Yes. And so I knew there were some controversial concepts that I was introducing, and I wanted to be delicate about it, and especially with my husband, who, by the way, is mentoring Zora to this day.
It's amazing, isn't that?
Mm-hmm. And so when the editor and I worked through the first draft, and we went through many drafts, after about 3 months I submitted the draft. The ending was difficult, but I liked the ending.
Stay tuned for the ending.
Yes, yes.
So for people not familiar yet with the book takes us through a journey, a time period. Tell us about the book itself.
Mm-hmm. The book begins in 2009, and I stopped it at around 2012, 2013. And I did that intentionally because I wanted to wait to see how things evolved. Mm-hmm. And not being able to predict the future and not knowing if this relationship would stay intact, I chose that period of time. And throughout the discussion of the book and the storytelling, I started with at my dad's house and how we worked through the process of taking care of him and preparing his soul for when he passed, calling in the priest, mm-hmm.
Making
sure that Dad had everything in order before he left.
Absolutely, yeah.
And my dad was quite a character, quite a character.
How much of the dad is you?
Quite a bit. I would say quite a bit. A bit of rebelliousness, nonconformist.
Fortitude.
All of that.
Stamina, determination.
Yes. And so that's how the book begins. And then it goes further. It goes deeper into the relationship with Zora and why this relationship matters. And the recognition of two souls, mine first, his second. And working through the dynamics of the relationship, taking it step by step. Just hearing Zora's voice sometimes when we'd call after Dad passed, hey, Loretta, how are you? Do you need any help? What's happening now?
There's a concern.
He felt a loss as well.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we hear the word, and you and I talked before we started the interview today, we talked a little bit about soulmates. And there's that thought that a soulmate is generally somebody that you come across or that you seek out or that you spend amount of time searching for. Mm-hmm. And if you come across the soulmate, and again, there's a lot of expectations you create in your mind of who that soulmate should be. That is somebody that is, quote, the love of your life and somebody that you partner up with, marry, what have you. In our society, I think it's presented that way. Mm-hmm. But that's not necessarily the case. And in the case, you are each other's soulmates. Mm-hmm. So tell us about how you were able to recognize that you are soulmates and how it's different than the way it's portrayed in our modern society.
Jim, that started in 2006 when I was working with an international consultant, writer, transition coach, and metaphysician. And we began doing my soul path analysis on an annual basis. And I was being directed through that medium. Do I recognize opportunities? Am I seizing the opportunities? Is it giving me satisfaction, compassion? Am I looking away too soon? What am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? And so in 2006, we began this discussion, this analysis. So I was already tuned in to people that come in and out of your life for a reason.
So to identify
correct.
An intuitive nature?
Correct. And throughout this process, I was reaching higher levels of intuitiveness. So I was like getting my sixth sense, the third eye, mm-hmm. my antenna was raised. And I was working in particularly difficult environments, so I knew how to sort out those individuals that I could work with, that I could communicate with. So I was predisposed already to the concept of soulmate and soul path analysis. So I took a course on soulmates. We talked about soul clusters and how people come together for a reason. So I knew it existed. And when Zora came into my life, the chemistry, the connection was fierce. And so I took that back to my counselor and consultant, Alice DeVille, and I said, "What's going on? This is crazy."
Was this consuming you? Was
yes,
this, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
All consuming, because you can't rationalize it.
And you can't shut it off or push it aside.
No, you cannot. It's there. It's nagging. It's morning, noon, and night, and you say, "Good God, what is going on
what
here?
is this?
Release me from this. What am I supposed to do? Show me the way." So the soulmate concept, in our case, was a soul from my past reuniting with me. It can be a woman, it can be a sibling, it can be a different sex, a friend, a co-worker. But marrying a soulmate is sort of the accepted definition. Oh, I met my soulmate, we're getting married. Most marriages to soulmates do not last because they're here for a certain reason, to show you a certain path or direction. And there's no age differences that could enter into it.
Ages,
doesn't matter.
Just no.
They're here for a reason to come into your life.
And you can have multiple soulmates at different levels?
Yes.
Like a primary, a secondary? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. Well, the primary soulmate is here to guide you and take you on a path. That's their job. That's their role. The secondary soulmate is someone who's here for you for that. But they're going to, you usually marry your secondary soulmate because there's more of a foundation there. There's more of a connection in that way. But the primary comes in and out. There's the term twin flames is used a bit here and there. Well, it's used quite a bit.
Is it also a situation where the soulmate, in a way, is like a mentor?
Yes, yes. They're brought to you to help you, guide you. We're not here alone. All of us are connected. Those that commit crimes, those that do acts of kindness, we're all connected. And we begin and we end life with this connection. And it's up to us to acknowledge it and bring them into our circle.
So, in this case with you, how did that happen? Was it eye-to-eye contact? Was there this a wash of feeling of contentment, happiness? What are some of the symptoms or physical reactions, emotional reactions that you feel so you can identify and really recognize that this is that soulmate? How do you really
with Zora, it was
identify
the eye contact.
It was.
He looked me straight in the eye. We had this connection.
Immediate.
And then I felt a flush go through me as I was talking to him, and I was asking him questions about his background because I was grappling at that point of where is the connection. And for me, it was through the eyes. And I can always tell when you don't look someone in the eye, or you look away, or you're distracted in some way, but not with him. It was a direct contact.
So it's really true in this case, the eyes are the windows to the soul. And in this case, times two.
And I looked through those eyes and I saw kindness, I saw sadness, I saw a great desire to succeed. It was like a reflection of sorts. It was,
of yourself?
Yes, yes. Because in my life I went through long periods of sadness, not belonging. I don't fit here.
Yeah.
They don't like me.
Right.
Gee, what have I done? And as I got older and matured, that became more serious for me.
Yeah.
And then through the work that I've done through the years, I've realized that it's not entirely me.
Right.
There are people that are brought in and they leave, and take what you will and leave those behind that do not fit right.
Right, right. It could always be a toxic situation,
Yes.
right, and bring you down. So has this experience made you more cognizant of being able to recognize that in people's eyes, the kindness, the determination? Have you now become even a little more expert at it from this experience?
Yes, yes. I most certainly have. And what I've learned is I can trust it now. And the book is about validating and trusting. I can trust my gut. I can trust my instincts.
Right.
I'm not way out there. I'm very much grounded.
Did you used to question them?
Yes.
You did?
Yes, all the time. Why am I seeing this? Why am I sensing this?
What does it make sense? How is it threaded and connected? What does it mean? Yeah.
Jim, I could walk into a room and feel cold, and I knew that that's not where I needed to be.
Really?
I would look at job opportunities, and I would sense that's not where I'm not meant to be here.
So out of this experience and through the book and through other things, speaking engagements, other things connecting with people, do you feel you now probably have always had, but it's now been identified and you have discovered it, the ability to show other people how they can discover these things for themselves, how they can recognize the things that are around them more than they do now as an expert?
As someone who's gone through this, I bring this up a lot in one-on-one, and I have a book club that I'm active in, and we share these things, and amazing. It's validating what they sense, and I said, don't ignore your intuition, don't ignore your gut. Some of the ladies come from a scientific background where they like that defined approach,
specific, right.
And others don't. So we have a cross section. But I tell them, I said, if it's happening to me, it's happening to you. And as a result of these discussions, they too have said, I knew it. I just knew it. We've been here before. I've had this experience before. And it crosses all religious spectrums and socioeconomic backgrounds. And they now understand that it's okay, it's acceptable to say, I don't like that person. I don't want to be around that person.
Which is good because a lot of times we're trained to sort of please and appease. And sometimes we hang on to relationships, careers, friendships, or what we think are good experiences, but they are actually dragging us down and holding us back because we're afraid to be the person that sort of pulls away. You know, you don't want to hurt feelings, whatever. But sometimes I guess you really have to, for your own sake and for their sake.
Yes. And I had to do that with Zora. I had to pull back.
Oh, you did?
I did at some point because it was overwhelming.
For both of you?
Yes. Especially for me, because I wanted to teach, I wanted to educate, I wanted to mentor. And I had to be sensitive, Jim, to the fact that he's a stranger in our country, and he's grappling with, how am I going to get another job? Where's that paycheck going to come from? I'm sending money back to my family, I've got to support myself as well, and I wanted him to embrace everything at once. And he couldn't do it. Right,
it's overwhelming. So how did your family react to all of this? Because this would be new for them too.
Yeah.
Because with you, for Zura, comes the family.
The family were cautious.
Sure, which makes sense.
Yes, especially my nephew. He would say, Aunt Loretta, are you sure? We don't know a lot about Zora. I said, wait till you get to know him. And so with Rick, I had to be especially careful because this concept of soulmates, you just don't want to bring that into a conversation. And Rick is understanding, and he does get it. So the family were more cautious. However, after I wrote the book and they read the book, I think there was a sense of relief that it's acceptable.
This is real.
This is real.
Right.
And I wanted my family to understand one thing, Jim, and that is I wanted it on paper. So when I'm gone, they have this. They have an archive. They have the last few weeks of Dad's life and what we went through memorialized. It's in a book. They lived it. I wanted to write it. Keep in mind, Jim, I did not live close to my family for over 30 years because I moved around quite a bit.
Yeah, right, absolutely. The career, right. How much of this is also the book a tribute to your father in any way? And honoring and remembering?
Yes, I wanted that. I wanted that very much. Dad was a complicated soul, and he didn't do things right all the time. He did many things that should not have been done in his life. And aside from my parents divorcing when I was an adult, there was other things. Dad really knew how to enjoy life. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want that to overshadow that he really was.
The goodness.
He was. He did the best he could as our dad. And so I did want it to be recognized. Dad was a World War II veteran. He served in both the Pacific and Atlantic theaters, which is unusual for the Navy.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to honor that as well. And on the back side of my book is a picture of my dad in his Navy uniform, in his sailor's uniform. So that I never wanted to lose sight of.
Are there any, this might be an interesting question, are there any elements within Zura that connect you to or remind you of your dad?
In this way, I would say that Dad was unsettled, and so is Zora. He's getting it a little bit better now, but unsettled is the word that I described, looking at different things and saying, if I do that, then this will happen. Mm-hmm. And yet, with my dad, he had the family responsibilities, whereas Zora, up until a year ago, did not. So that was something that I saw in the both of them, this unsettling feeling, not knowing where they belonged. Because I think that's what was part of Dad's journey. Where did he fit in? He had a number of jobs. Mm-hmm.
So they don't want to be boxed in, locked.
Exactly right.
Need an escape clause.
Right, right.
Yeah, commitment.
An out.
Yeah.
They needed an out.
They didn't do it, and then next, right, not sign on the dotted line. So for Zura and the relationship with Zura, in the 8 years of knowing Zura, what stands out in your mind since writing the book? Is there anything that really propels through for you since writing that book?
Yes, a couple of things. These are dates that stand out more than anything. July 15, 2015, Rick and I went down to the Eastern District Courthouse in Richmond, Virginia, the state capital, and we watched Zora sworn in as a U.S. citizen. That, to me, was the most profound experience, where he's sitting with upwards of 70 immigrants from around the world saying that now they want to be part of the United States. The judge, who happened to be African American, and I say this intentionally because he spoke to the immigrants and he said, "Thank you for choosing this country. Thank you for coming to the United States. Now, I want you to understand what it means to be a citizen of this country. It's more than obeying the laws. It's about being a patriot. Mm-hmm. It's about embracing this culture. It's about giving back to this country that wants you here." And then the judge got off the dais, went down, swore in each immigrant, saying their names, which was not an easy thing for him to do. And there was Zora, "I'm from the country of Georgia." And the second example, and there are no coincidences in life, March 19th, 2009, my dad passed away. March 19th, 2016 is the day his daughter was born. Mm. So a soul left on that day, and a new soul came on that particular day. So I say that...
There's something to that.
Yes.
That happens
yes.
a lot, but we don't always put those dots together.
Right.
But one almost makes room for the new life.
It was Dad's way of saying, gee, I haven't always been the greatest dad, but I've given you this. Mm-hmm. I've believed strongly. And now Elena is Zora's daughter. Mm. We couldn't believe it when we got the call. She's getting ready to deliver. I said, it's March 19th. And sure enough, she came right on schedule.
So how do you feel about his daughter? Is there a connection? Is there a motherly feeling towards her? How does this fit in for you?
Elena is, for me, almost the completion of the circle of life. Mm-hmm. And she's in Georgia now with her mom. They're visiting her mother's family. So when she gets back, she's going to be a little different. And
when you say Georgia,
the country of Georgia.
Not,
yeah.
Right.
So Elena, for me, is looking at Zora's family now continuing on. And through my connection with Zora, I'm going to be a witness of that continuation of life, because I chose to open the window and experience this. And trust me, there wasn't always great, happy times in this last few years.
Absolutely. Now, we're talking about the concept of soulmates. How did you understand the concept of soulmates? How did that, and when did that come actually for you? When was that solidified? Through this experience only, or prior to that?
No, I took some courses on soulmates and studied it.
Right.
And it was solidified primarily through Zora's relationship. Yes, and it came full circle. And then continuing to work through that, I really became. I believe in the concept of soulmates, whereas before it was just a term. Now I understand the meaning of it. They're here for a reason. They're here to show you something, to give you something, and vice versa.
Absolutely. Now, there's somebody special in your life as well named Alice. Tell us about Alice.
Alice DeVille is probably one of the most intuitive persons I have ever met. I used her as a transition coach primarily, and then our relationship evolved. She is an astrologist, studied astrology for many, many years. And so what she did for me was we're also of the same religion, so she was very cognizant of that aspect. And nowhere in our work did she take us or take me down a road that conflicted with my beliefs. Not at all, but she worked through this with me. And so we began this journey together in the analysis, the soul path analysis. And so the soulmate concept is part of that. It's almost like you can't have one without the other. And so what she does is she looks at the day you're born, the time you're born, and where you're born. Right. So when I had this aha moment with Zora, and she said, "You're on the mark, you're absolutely right, wait till we talk." And she looked at his chart, and she looked at my chart through the centuries, and she studied all of the pieces that go into a natal chart, and she saw the connection. It doesn't happen quickly. It's many hours of research and studying and analyzing, and then she was able to produce that analysis based on our two charts. And so she's even to this day, when I speak with her, and I speak with her often, Zora's name comes up, and she'll say, "Well, that's because of this," and she's able to pinpoint that and say, "And that's because of that." So she is well known. She has been an inspiration for me, and she's in a way saved me from being stagnant. I mean, I was able to take that leap and grow and understand and trust my intuition.
Which is important.
Really,
trust. Yeah,
very
trust
much.
Yourself.
Yeah, trust yourself and your gut. If it doesn't fit right, it's not going to work.
How many times do we change an answer on a test and we should have kept the first answer? We've all done that.
We have.
We've all done that in every aspect of our lives.
Right.
We've mentioned soul path. How do you describe what a soul path actually is?
Well, the soul path is direction of where do you fit in? Where do you go? Where do you belong? What are those events in your life that you should pay attention to? And what are you going to do with it? Does making a decision give you great energy and passion and excitement? Or do you feel, that's not going to work for me? I think how I would explain it, Jim, is that it gave me a heightened sense of where should I go and what should I do? Now, I originally looked at soul path analysis from a business career perspective, and it's incredibly helpful looking at it through that lens. But the soul path is more than that. It points you in the right direction, and that's why it takes so long for her to do it, and for her to analyze and explain it to me. And we would do it on an annual basis. And I would go back and look at the notes and say, you know, shouldn't go that direction. I'm leaning towards it, but I'm going to back off a little bit. And
it's
so
okay to say no.
Yes, and for me, I thought saying no was, I should do it, they want me to do it.
Right.
And I'm miserable.
Right. There's the hope that maybe it leads to the next thing or something good will come out of it, and it turns out to be
a disaster.
A farce and aggravating and frustrating, and why did I do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would say that's sort of like a blueprint. Where do you go? Where do you fit in? And are you going to grow from the experience? Are you going to use it to further your own goals and desires? And it's about love. It's about universal love and embracing the love and giving it and receiving it and staying away from those people or events that do not fit into that.
Because there's certain people where it's the opposite of soulmate, where you're just not meant to be working together, or they're just as, it's a polarizing. Have you come to sense that easier through all this training and expertise and living it?
Yes.
You say that quick and very determined.
Yes, I say that.
I've been learning that as well.
Yes, and I know from our work together, and we began this part of my journey this summer, and I now know that my direction is going to take a different path. I knew it, I wanted it, but I didn't want to act on it until I felt 100% confident that I could take this path with the right people who cared about me, who care about the message, who are non-judgmental, and who understand that what I'm offering is validation. So I want to take that message to others who don't feel like they belong, or, gee, I should apologize, I'm sorry. No, you don't have to do that. And you're okay, the other person isn't okay. I mean, psychiatric offices or psychiatrists are loaded with patients.
Who are self-loathing,
yes,
have no sense of self-worth,
yes,
and a lot of it's because it's been strewn on them. Yeah.
So it has, and I feel now that I'm at the right place. I'm at a crossroads, and that I am going to go down this road and see where it takes me. And guess what? If you want to come along for the ride, have a great time. And that's what I said to Zora. I said, you want to come along and enjoy this? Let's do it. And in fact, my husband's here because he's along with me too, every step of the way.
Which is perfect. How does Zora feel about the book? Tell us about that. What's been the reaction from Zora?
When I told him I was writing the book, he was nervous. He said, I really don't want a lot of my life put in a book. I said, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. I will interview you. You tell me, just talk to me. Tell me what you experienced as a child growing up in the Soviet Union country. Because one of our past lives was we were both activists in the country of Germany, and then I wrote a lot of anti-government pieces, Know Your Rights, and then found my way outside of Moscow with him. And we were of like mind then. So I said, I'm interested in knowing what your life was like in a former Soviet Union country. And he walked me through that. It took several sessions. And he said, he talked about when he had to study using candlelight, because the electricity is down, it's not up, water's down, it's not up. This is communism. This is the way they do business.
This is normal for them.
They take the spirit out of the people, they take the souls from the people, they take their ability to think independently. But he was different. And I said to him, okay, let's talk about that and let's work it through. And he said, I want you to put this in the book. I'm sitting on the front step in my building, high-rise apartment building. And a man came by, he was probably in his 40s, and he says, young man, what are you doing out here? And I'm thinking about what I should do with my life. And he said, what would you do, I believe I'm saying this correctly, they can read it in the book, if I had $400,000 or $500,000, with that, what would you do with it? Then think about that before you make your decision. And Zora was thinking about coming to the United States, applying for a visa, and he thought about this. He said, can that money give you what you really are looking for and searching for in your life? And Zora said it hit him. So you see, this man was meant to walk by that day to move Zora in the right direction. And so Zora began to study English to pass the interview. So he said, I want you to know that my life was good. His father passed away when he was 20 years of age. He said, I want you to know what I experienced and why this country means so much to me because of the opportunity. But also know what it takes for a man in the mid-20s to leave what he knows and walk away from it and go to a place he's never been, he's only heard about it, seen it, and say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to stay and do what I need to do. Yeah. So he said, if you do that, he said, I'll be happy with the book. And I said, well, it's going to have to be a little bit more than that. And he said that he would welcome the opportunity to have him brought into the story. But keep in mind, Jim, we were working up to this.
This became, this was a building process, right? In many different respects, right?
In many different respects.
Comfortability, confidence, trust, all important.
All important. Trust is the word, and taking a risk.
It seems like the book, in a way, sort of tells us that it's about living life with an understanding of realizing that there's more around us than maybe we realized is possible, and to appreciate it, and to be open to the possibilities, right, of it all. Was that an intention for this book? Or did that just happen?
That evolved.
Yeah.
Because understand, I was grappling with this as well. I'm trying to sort this all out. And believe me, I had many a sleepless night. And so the evolution took time, and the awareness and understanding what that awareness means. Instead of just dismissing it outright. I'm a very introspective person. I analyze everything. Everything.
Join the club.
Yes, and so for me to be...
Charter member.
Yeah. So, whereas Zora's just the opposite of me. He's, let's do it. Let's just jump in and...
Feel the moment
and
go with it.
Go with it. And you know what? He said to me one day, he said, what has it meant for me to come into your life? And I said, what it has meant for me is you have shown me how to accept love and give love to people that I didn't know before.
Wouldn't even.
And you have enlarged my circle of people that I choose to associate with. Because everything revolves around that universal love. A little Pollyannish, perhaps, but
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, but in but prior I just pushed it off.
Yeah.
But now I understand what that means.
Speaking of pushed off, how through all of this did you not scare Zura away?
That was the biggest challenge I had, because I wanted to share past life experiences. I wanted to tell him why this was happening, because of this concept of soul path and soulmates and past life analysis. And he would listen. He'd say to me, I get some of it, but I don't know about the other stuff. And so, because of Alice, she would say, be patient. Your soul, remember one thing, your soul recognized him first. His soul is awakening. And that can take a very long time.
So you had that aha moment first.
Mm-hmm. Mm. I did. And I remember at my dad's funeral, he came to my dad's funeral and we had a lunch afterwards, and I took him off to the side. Because at this point, Alice and I were communicating quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I said, Zora, I'm not letting you go. And he's looking at me, and I said, I'm not letting you go, and this family is not letting you go. And I said, you understand that you can see us, you can call us. Now, Zora's living in the Philadelphia area. I've returned to Virginia, my home. So it wasn't something like he could pop in.
Right, exactly.
And I said, understand something. You were meant to be with me the day Dad passed away. You were meant to be with me until I pass away, and you will be with me. And so saying those things to him, oh my gosh, who is this person? I mean, I worked with her and helped her for a few weeks, but holy mackerel, what's going on here? I mean, is this how Americans think?
Yes, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's when you really think about it.
And we're still doing this. We're still doing this. He came over the other day and he told me something. I said, I knew that a year ago.
Really?
He looked at me and he said, uh-huh. I said, yeah, I had a notion that you were going to do this.
I want to let people know as well that you also work, in the world of disability. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that. Incredible work that you do.
Yeah. I work for the World Institute on Disability. The home office is in Berkeley, California, and I'm the Washington, D.C. Metro staff for them. And it's something that I began in government. I worked for George W. Bush, and my last assignment for the president was to work in the Office of Disability Employment Policy, which is a fairly new agency in government. And so I was brought into that after a very, very highly responsible position in another agency. So I was glad for the break. And my portfolio included reaching out to corporate America to encourage them to look at employing people with disabilities. Now, keep in mind, the war is going on, and so we have wounded warriors coming back. Mm-hmm. So there is a receptivity anyway. So I did that for 4 years. And I left, and I never thought I would be in the field, stay in the field. Keep in mind, Jim, that most people that go into this field, many of them have a disability themselves, mm-hmm. married to someone or a child, and it becomes their lifelong
give back. Yeah.
vocation. For me, it was not. For me, it was an assignment. I did it well. This is what the president wants me to do, and I'll do it as best as I can. So several months passed, taking care of Dad, taking care of his affairs. I received a call about an opportunity that was associated with the World Institute on Disability, and that's been a 6-year relationship. And I would say to anybody who's interested in coming in this field, you don't get to take a lot of victory laps. And so you have to understand that it truly is a lifelong vocation if this is what you want. Now, we don't provide medical services.
Sure.
We provide employment opportunities and policy and research work to inform government, to inform state government and federal government, that if you do this or you make this change, it will open more doors to someone who has a disability that wants to work. And that's what we're about, providing the opportunity. And that's why I'm in Washington, D.C., and I'll be on the Hill in the next couple of months promoting a program that we have, that we're initiating at the state and federal level, that hopefully will open the door for 18 to 30-year-olds, so to give them more opportunity to be taxpayers instead of tax users.
Now, how does all of this experience that you document in this book, the intuitive nature also that you realize you have, all the experience that you've gained through your mentors and coaches as well, how does that world blend with the world you do with the World Institute of Disabilities? Is there some similarity? Is there the intuitive nature when you're working with people that comes through in your work?
There is. Intuition serves you in all capacities. I would say the relationship is for me, is the desire to see even a small success and to take that victory lap over a small success and to feel good about what you've done and to understand that it's not going to happen today or tomorrow or maybe even next month, maybe in a year or so. And to see that all the work that you've done to get to that successful moment, I would say that's where the intersection is in the work that I do. If we are able to succeed with this initiative and tell Congress, if you give us a chance, this could very well be a lifelong career for a person with disability. And with Zora, it was the same way. Give me a chance. Let's work this through. It's hard work. It's not for everyone, and I tell anyone that wants to come into the field, you're going to burn out quickly if you don't see it as a long-term endeavor.
It's an investment.
It's an investment. If you don't feel good about what you're doing and if you don't feel comfortable with it, leave it. Leave. It's not meant for you. I never thought it would be something that I would stay with. I didn't. But because I found the work was so challenging, and I have a wonderful team that I work with.
And you're making a difference in the lives of others.
We are.
A positive difference.
We are. We really are. And that's why I've stayed. And I would say it's a vocation. It's something that you grasp and you want to see it through. I want to see the job through.
You do. The book itself, getting back to the book, what do you hope readers get out of the book that they're left with, that they can now take in their own lives to make their lives better?
I want them to take away from the book that what they've experienced is not unusual. They may think it is just because it's theirs, but it's more universal. I want them to feel that there's a sense of validation. And look, you don't have to like taking care of a person. I certainly wasn't prepared for it.
You didn't expect it to happen.
It didn't expect it to happen.
You're thrust into it.
And so there are days when you say, and this is how I felt some days when you're exhausted. Maybe tomorrow he will pass away. And he's relieved, and I'll be relieved.
That's an overall relief for everybody, right?
Yeah. So, and to understand that the people that come in your life, they come in, they leave, and it's okay if they leave. And if you want them...
That's a hard thing to learn, isn't it?
It is.
That's a hard thing.
Because we want to hold on.
Loss and loss, right.
It is a hard thing.
They were meant to be there for that period of time, and then not necessarily stay. Not everybody's meant to stay.
Right, and I want the reader to come away and with the idea that they can, they may have similar situations in the coping that's required to withstand that kind of demand, and there's anger.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And dealing with that anger and working that through.
Range of emotions.
Very much so.
Range of emotions that you might not even have experienced before thrust on you.
And these were circumstances I wasn't prepared for. It was one thing to take care of Dad with my sister and brother, because they played a huge role. They were there when I was in Virginia. It's quite another to take a Zora under your wing. And so that probably won't happen to someone on a regular basis. But I want them to walk away and say, it was worth the 3.5 or 4 hours it takes to read somebody else's story. People have told me they've cried. I get messages.
Have you?
Yes.
You answered that determined and quick.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a way for me to get through the pain and get through the emotion of the experience, and I get messages from people, especially people from the Georgian community. Yeah. It's personal for them.
Right. Absolutely.
And when you and I talked, I got a message because I posted it on my Facebook, and they said, "I can't stop crying. I feel your emotion, and you know what we've gone through as immigrants."
That is incredible. It really is. So you have some things you'd like to share with us, Loretta, from the book?
Yes, I would. And it goes to the soulmate part of our discussion. In the work of past life experiences and work that others have done, they'll say there's some physical likeness. Well, one day Zura and I were sitting down doing some work together at our house in Virginia, and he has a scar in the same place where I have a scar between the thumb and my first finger, and they're burn marks. And I looked down and I said, "Wow, you have a scar there." He said, "Yeah." I said, "So do I." This was before I wrote the book. And then through the research for the book, I discovered that that's quite common. And so that was another sign to me that there was this strong connection. And I would joke with Zora, and I would say to him, "Well, Zora," I said, you'll be with me when I go." And he'll say, "Well, you're not going to go for quite a long time." But there's this one passage that I would like to share with you. And it's in the afterword of the book. And it's 2 paragraphs. "As I put the finishing touches on this story, I can't help but think what life would be like had I not hired Zora to help my family take care of my father, had Rick said no to sponsoring Zora's application for residency, had I not found a way to stay in touch with Zora, and had Zora not allowed himself to open up to us. I'm certain of this. We would not have traveled to Georgia, let alone give serious thought to establishing a U.S. and Georgia-based tour company. The fulfillment of knowing that I am forever connected to Zora, his country, and his bright future in America is at times overwhelming. I've learned to take it one step at a time. There are no coincidences in life. God has a plan for all of us, and I know Zora's soul and my soul have crossed paths time and again in the past. He will be with me when I close my green eyes for the final time, just as he was with me when my father closed his eyes one last time, and we will all meet again. I love you, my dear friend. Why do I know this? Call it woman's intuition."
That's fantastic. That is beautiful. My God. How did you come up with that? That just, it flowed. It just.
And if we have another moment, I'd like to read you Zora's poem.
Absolutely.
And he writes his poetry in Georgian, but he translated this in English. "This life is an act, a play with no rehearsal, where we're all in this play, have roles now and then special. We stumble sometimes not knowing the script, but as time tumbles by, we get a better grip. Some become masters of a finer act, some have a hard time and choose to sit back. Willing or not, we are all in it whole, in the show of our lives, the best one of all."
That's beautiful.
Just works.
Yeah, a real poet,
Yeah.
a true poet.
Yes, and he wrote this poem years ago.
Did he really?
Yes, it wasn't for
But it was
this
so
book.
appropriate for the book. That's truly amazing. Loretta, out of all of these experiences you've had, and especially this with the book and with Zura, what would you say is the biggest lesson through all of this that you've learned that you feel might even be good advice for others?
What I've learned is don't dismiss so easily. Don't be quick. Think it through. It's meant to be. There aren't any coincidences. Look at every situation through that lens. And understand that that person that you might have dismissed may be looking for just a kind word, a pat on the back, a well done, where they can go and do even greater things. Not recognizing that each of us have a role to play, that we are bound to each other, and dismissing that so easily. Whether you're standing on the metro platform, those are people that you're connected with in some way.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they're all part of the fabric of life. And so I would say that's the biggest lesson that I learned. Step out of the mind a little bit. Stop analyzing so much. Yeah. Just let it work through you. Let the emotion play out a little bit more than I normally would have. That's the lesson that I learned. And I try to practice it every day. This doesn't mean you don't get angry. You do get angry. But put it in perspective. We're all here together. We're all going to leave and hopefully incarnate into a better life where we can advance more and learn from one another. And I've also would say it's okay if your circle is small. It's okay if you don't get along with a family member, because you don't.
It's just right.
You don't.
Right.
And so yeah. It's a way of saying, understand what you're supposed to do here and why you're supposed to do it.
What kind of legacy would you like to leave the world, Loretta, if you were really to think about that? I know that's a monumental question, but you're on a path here. You're on a continuing journey, touching lives through your daily work with the Institute, but through these experiences, which are just really the tip of the iceberg, I think, for you. So if you were to think of a legacy, what would you love to leave the world with?
Seeking the truth, searching for the truth, keeping an open mind, and recognizing that there's a place in this world for everyone. I don't need accolades, great, profound, lofty words. It's just seeking the truth. Where are you supposed to go? And what's real?
I think a lot of people are also, right now, there seems to be an undercurrent of people that are really asking themselves that question. Why am I here? What's my purpose? What's this all about? What am I supposed to do? And what am I going to leave? You know, how am I going to make the room better than I found it? I think there's a lot of people that are right now, just through world events and fast-paced society we're in, that are saying, okay, I have to adapt and be flexible with everything. However, why am I here? What's this all about? What's my purpose in all of this? And do I have one?
A lot of us are. A lot of us are caught up in the technology, in a lot of the pollution that's out there, the noise pollution. We're becoming more impersonal, and you have to pull back. And by pulling back, I mean, continue to read, continue to educate yourself, but sort out, discern what really matters in your life. We had a conversation recently with my director, and she said, someone reminded me that I said this. In other words, you're getting a little long in the tooth. You didn't remember. And I said, Nina, I said, here's how I see it. You're just categorizing information. If it is not relevant to you, you put it aside.
Move on.
Keep going. Don't hang on to those irrelevant pieces. And when you say, what's my purpose in life, it's more than your job. It's more in how you relate to others. It sounds pretty basic, and it is. But you don't have to spend hours on social media and reading every piece of information. We're in information overload.
We are, yeah.
Reconnect. Have a cup of tea. Pick up the phone. Call a friend. How are you? Dash off a text. I use text. I do. How are you? Thinking of you today. Something's on my mind. I'm thinking we should talk soon. Just little acts like that, just to pull people back in.
Humans are supposed to be communal.
Right.
We need each other. It's you, me, us.
Right. And so that's where I see things now. And then someone is saying, what am I supposed to do? Well, I'll tell you what you're supposed to do. Listen to your inner voices. if they're telling you you're miserable waking up at 5:30 and going to
on the train,
on
and
the freeway,
to get
and
to
the
a job you can't stand,
beltway,
with a boss who you don't like, and yeah.
Do something about it, but it's fear. There's a lot of fear. And believe me, that fear factor, Jim, that can take us over and take us down. We're afraid. And I would say, so was I. And it took me quite a while to get through that, to work it through. But you don't have to make the leap all at once. Take it in smaller steps. And begin to make the change in your own life and your own outlook.
One step at a time.
It is. It's
one
pretty.
Step at a time.
It's
Don't
basic.
rush it. Let it happen. Let life happen, and deal with it. Be flexible. Appreciate it. Let it wash over you. Don't try to always analyze it, and always write a script for everything. Right?
Yes, for everything.
That's right.
For everything, and be prepared. It's not. You're going to be thrown a lot of curveballs.
And don't get hung up on what everybody else is doing and try to live their life. We are living in a culture right now where everybody is trying to do what the neighbor's doing and keep up this status level of doing what the neighbor's doing. And they're very unhappy.
Yeah. And I would say to a parent, if you have a child like me, call me. I'll tell you what you're experiencing. I'll tell you why that child is doing what they're doing and why.
Quick question. Before we wrap, I would love to know what has been the feedback from the readers, the people who've picked this book up, soaked it in. What's the feedback you've been getting?
The feedback I get is, thank you for writing this. Thank you for saying what I've felt throughout my life. They feel the emotion. They feel the connectivity in their own world in a small way. My family went on Amazon to write the testimonials, so some of that is a little biased. But for those that are not connected to me, it's been gratifying. And the one takeaway from the testimonials is, thanks for letting me know that I'm okay, that I've experienced this as well, and it's fine, it's okay, and that you shared such private experiences and moments publicly, and weren't afraid to do it. So that's been the feedback that I've received.
Is it the feedback you've hoped, or has it surprised you?
I'm a little surprised, because this is such a personal story, and that's why there was a delay between the time I published and to the time we're sitting here, because I frankly, I'm no different than anybody else. Accepting criticism is not easy, and so I was a little nervous about criticism. I haven't gotten that, so
that's great. So
that's where I've come with my little story. My soul's journey, and it's not over. It's not over. Good things on the way, on the horizon. I think so. I think so. That's fantastic. Loretta, this was truly amazing. I want to thank you personally for joining us here in the studio today and sharing your story, sharing Zura with us, and sharing the book. I wish you continued success. Thank you very much, Jim. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a pleasure. We hope to see you again soon. I want to be back soon. I know you will be. Best of luck to you. Thank you so much. What a truly phenomenal story, and one that really makes you think about the encounters you may have had in your own life as well. Loretta's book, Piece of Soul Through the Heart, A Soul's Journey, is available at Amazon.com. Now, to learn more about our very special guest, Loretta Herrington, visit her website, lorettaherrington.me. For CUTV News, I'm Jim Masters.